Generation 1, the Rotary and Landline. Every phone in your pocket today traces back to a guy shouting at his assistant through a wire. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell patented the telephone, and just 3 days later, he made the first call ever. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." History's first phone call was powered by mild inconvenience. By 1877, the first experimental telephone exchange opened in Boston, but this wasn't something everyone had. Only a handful of people could even use it, and early phones didn't have dials. You'd pick up the receiver and literally ask a human operator to connect your call. Imagine trying to make a private call today and having to announce it to a stranger first. Then in 1891, things got interesting. Almon Stroger, an undertaker who was convinced operators were sending his business calls to competitors, decided to fix the problem himself. He invented the first automatic rotary dial system, which let users connect calls without a human operator. It was installed commercially in LaPorte, Indiana. And just like that, one man's paranoia upgraded the entire phone system. By 1919, rotary dial phones started rolling out more widely. And by the 1920s, they became the standard. Then came the Model 302 in 1937, designed by Henry Dreyfuss. This was the first truly modern telephone. The ringer was built into the body. The handset combined speaking and listening. And the design is basically what people still imagine when they think of an old-school phone. Forget making calls. Just spinning that dial and feeling it slowly click back into place was the most satisfying thing in the world. It was basically a fidget spinner decades before fidget spinners existed. Behind the scenes, the system was massive. By 1949, Bell had hired around 250,000 switchboard operators, most of them women, manually connecting calls across the network. In 1963, Bell introduced the touch-tone phone, replacing the rotary dial with buttons. Instead of slow clicks, each number produced a distinct tone. It was faster, easier, and felt futuristic at the time, even though today it's the bare minimum we expect. By the 1970s, landlines had taken over homes. Modular cords and jacks made installation easier, and cordless phones started to appear, giving people the incredible freedom of walking around their house while talking. Revolutionary stuff, as long as you didn't go too far from the base. This entire era feels ancient now, but it laid the foundation for everything that came after. But what if the phone didn't need the wire at all? Generation 2, cutting the cord. The idea of a portable phone didn't start in 1983. It started with a flex. In 1973, Motorola engineer Martin Cooper made the first ever handheld mobile call using a prototype. And he didn't call a friend or family member. He called his direct rival at AT&T Bell Labs just to say, "Yeah, we beat you." That's not just innovation, that's competitive energy at its finest. But turning that prototype into a real product took time. About 10 years and roughly $100 million in research and development. Then in 1983, it finally happened. The Motorola DynaTAC 8000X was approved by the FCC on September 21st. And on October 13th, the first commercial mobile call was made from Soldier Field in Chicago. The phone didn't actually hit store shelves until March 1984. But from that moment, mobile phones were officially real. And they were kind of ridiculous. The DynaTAC weighed about 1.75 pounds, stood about 10 inches tall with its antenna, and offered just 30 minutes of talk time. Charging it took about 6 hours, which means you could charge it all night just to talk for half an hour. Then there's the price, $3,995 in 1983, which is over 12 grand today. This wasn't a phone, it was a status symbol. Wall Street traders, Hollywood executives, and the ultra-wealthy carried it around like a badge of success. If you had one, you weren't just making calls, you were making a statement. It quickly earned the nickname The Brick, which feels generous because even bricks are easier to carry. The Brick proved mobile phones could exist, but it would take another decade before everyone could actually afford one. Generation 3, phones go mainstream. By 2000, the Nokia 3310 dropped the weight down to just 133 grams, turning mobile phones from pocket problems into actual pocket devices for the first time. And people loved it. A lot. Over 126 million units were sold, making it one of the best-selling phones ever. You got Snake 2, which somehow became more addictive than most modern mobile games. I personally spent an embarrassing number of hours on Snake. And I know for a fact, I wasn't the only one. You also got a ringtone composer so you could create music that sounded like it was being performed by a confused robot, and customizable faceplates so your phone could match your personality, or at least pretend to. And then there was SMS texting. Short, simple, and somehow still more emotionally complex than half of today's group chats. Battery life was another level. Up to 260 hours of standby time. That's days without charging. Modern smartphones can't even comprehend that concept without overheating emotionally. But the thing everyone remembers is durability. At some point, people stopped asking, will it break? And started asking, what will break around it? At its peak, Nokia controlled around 40% of the global mobile market, completely dominant. Nokia also had an entire empire around this time with devices like 5110 and 6600, and the legendary Nokia 1100, which sold over 250 million units and still holds the record as one of the most successful phones ever made. Quick question, which phone on this list was your very first phone? The 3310, a Razr, or did you skip straight to smartphones? Drop it in the comments, and if this trip through phone history is hitting some nostalgia, smash the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Generation 4, the last stand before iPhone. By the mid-2000s, phones stopped being one-size-fits-all. Suddenly, what was in your pocket said something about who you were. If you cared about style, you carried a Razr. If you cared about work, you carried a BlackBerry. The Motorola Razr V3 dropped in September 2004 and went on to sell over 130 million units worldwide. Designed by Chris Arnold with the name Razr coming from Motorola executive Jeffrey Frost, this phone didn't look like anything else at the time. Ultra-thin aluminum body, a sleek external glass screen, and that glowing keypad cut from a single sheet of metal. This was the first phone people actually treated like a fashion accessory. Celebrities carried it on red carpets, people showed it off in public, and suddenly pulling out your phone felt like part of your outfit. Pick the wrong color and suddenly your whole personality felt questionable. But while the Razr was winning the style war, another phone was quietly taking over offices everywhere. BlackBerry, made by Research in Motion, had already been around since 1999 with email pagers, and by 2003 they added full phone functionality. But around 2005 to 2007, everything clicked. If you had a BlackBerry, you weren't just busy, you were important. Or at least you looked important, which is basically the same thing. The biggest reason was that physical QWERTY keyboard. Fast, tactile, and weirdly satisfying to type on. It became the go-to device for professionals, executives, Wall Street traders, and politicians. Basically, if your job involved saying, per my last email, you probably had a BlackBerry. And then there was push email. This was the killer feature. Emails didn't just sit there waiting. They arrived, instantly, in your pocket. In 2006, that felt like a superpower. Today, it feels normal. It got so addictive, people started calling it crackberry. Even the president wasn't immune. Barack Obama was so attached to his BlackBerry that the Secret Service had to push back over security concerns. He didn't want to give it up. BlackBerry also quietly created one of the first real messaging platforms, BBM. This was before WhatsApp, before iMessage. You had read receipts, group chats, and those iconic D and R indicators. If your message said D but not R, you knew they saw it. They chose not to reply. Friendships were tested. At its peak, around 2012, BlackBerry had about 80 million subscribers and roughly 20% of the smartphone market. It wasn't just popular, it was dominant. So that was the era. Motorola believed design was king. BlackBerry believed the keyboard was untouchable. Two completely different identities. One man walked onto a stage in San Francisco and made both of them obsolete in a single keynote. Generation 5, the touchscreen revolution. Everything changed in 2007. At Macworld on January 9th, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone with a line that now feels historic. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. These are not three separate devices. It launched on June 29th, 2007. The original iPhone had a 3.5-inch display, a 2-megapixel camera, and no app store at launch. And people literally lined up outside stores just to buy a phone. Not an upgrade, not a replacement, just a phone. But in 2007, it felt like holding the future, just with a slightly questionable camera. The real turning point came in 2008 with the App Store. That one update changed everything. Suddenly, your phone wasn't just a phone anymore. It was a game console, a GPS, camera, music player, bank, translator, and probably a flashlight app with ads. An entire economy was born from tapping a single icon. And just like that, older devices started disappearing. The iPhone quietly absorbed the iPod. Point-and-shoot cameras, MP3 players, GPS units. Everything became one slab of glass that now somehow does everything and still complains about battery life. Android entered the fight shortly after. The HTC Dream in 2008 was the first Android phone, but things really took off with the Samsung Galaxy S in 2010. With a 4-inch Super AMOLED display and a 1 GHz processor, it sold over 25 million units and made Android a serious rival instead of just that other system. Samsung didn't just compete, it aggressively iterated like its life depended on it. The Galaxy S2 went thinner, faster. The S3 introduced quad-core processing and NFC. The S6 ditched plastic for premium glass and metal. The S7 added water resistance, and the S8's Infinity display nearly erased the bezel entirely. Every year, Samsung pushed harder, and every year the gap between Android and iPhone shrank. Samsung eventually became the world's largest smartphone manufacturer by volume, while Apple dominated the premium ecosystem. Together, they turned smartphones into the most important device in human history. More people now have a smartphone than have access to a toilet. The rivalry pushed everything forward. iPhone X killed the home button and introduced Face ID. Galaxy Fold literally bent the screen in half. iPhone 15 finally switched to USB-C after years of the entire internet begging Apple to stop using Lightning. For over a decade, phones have basically been slabs of glass with different logos on them. But what comes next? Generation 6. What's next? Right now, in 2025 and 2026, we're in a phase where phones are no longer just improving. They're starting to get creative again with their physical shape. Samsung has been leading this shift. The Galaxy Z Flip brought back the clamshell design in 2020, reviving that satisfying Razr-era snap we talked about earlier. The Galaxy Z Fold went the opposite direction, unfolding into a larger screen that feels like carrying a tablet in your pocket. Samsung also pushed further with the Galaxy Z Trifold, a multi-panel design that launched in January 2026. Samsung also explored slidable displays, where instead of folding, the phone physically expands outward. So instead of opening a device, you kind of unleash it. It goes from normal phone size to something closer to a small tablet. Apple is also entering the space, but in classic Apple fashion. It's letting everyone else test the chaos first. The first foldable iPhone, often called the iPhone Fold, is targeting late 2026, though production delays could push it into 2027. It is rumored to feature a 7.8-inch inner OLED display, a 5.3-inch outer screen, a book-style design just 4.5 millimeters thin when open, and side-mounted Touch ID instead of Face ID. The price is expected to start above $2,000, which is Apple's way of saying this is still in the you'll think about it, not buy it category. There's also talk of a flip-style iPhone later on, and the future of phones is no longer just faster or smarter. 2027 might be remembered as the year the phone changed shape again. And that's every phone generation, from rotary dials and wall wires to cutting the cord. Phones going mainstream, the last stand of Razrs and BlackBerries before the iPhone changed everything, and foldables that are just getting started. What do you think phones will look like in 2030? Drop your prediction in the comments. If this made phone history make sense, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, here's the thing. You just learned how phones evolved on the outside. Every generation from rotary to foldable. But all of those devices are powered by tiny chips doing the actual heavy lifting inside. Snapdragon, Apple Silicon, MediaTek, Tensor, Exynos. Those names are thrown around constantly, but most people have no idea what makes them different. That's exactly what we're covering next. Every smartphone chip explained simply, what each one does, why it matters, and which ones are actually worth paying attention to. Click the video on screen right now, and I'll see you there.